minutes wrap-up stage. This is a 20-minute session where we get to learn from Phil's perspective, we get to learn from his perspective that we gathered through the experience over the years of successfully implementing large-scale ERP transformations on SAP. I also want to invite Karthik to take a seat. Karthik is sort of a flip side of Phil. He has a lot of experience in delivering those complex transformations, especially on the supply chain. So ever since we started delivering these transformations, Karthik is part of each and every one. So he comes with more than 40 successful transformations. And because he has done it for different customers, he has more variety to share, right? From good to bad to ugly. And every customer experience when we deliver, we learn something new. And it helps us refine our approach in terms of how do we design, how do we deploy, how do we make sure we eliminate the risk. And I'm sure Phil, through his implementations, have learned the best practices over the years. So this session's objective is to just ask, my job is the easiest one, get to ask questions. But the question would be more around what are the key considerations he would have to implement a big-scale program. So yes, there are processes that are struggling. Yes, there are systems that are inadequate from an integration standpoint, from a data standpoint. So when you decide to undertake a large-scale implementation, what are the landmines that you need to be aware of? You don't want to step or make precautions. So my questions would be around that, and same question Karthik would answer, referring to some of his experiences. So we already talked about people and processes and systems, but one of the holy grail for any transformation once you do is making sure you get the data integrity back. Because most of the problems in a business process stem from, hey, I don't see the same data that you are seeing. So when you approach a large-scale transformation, what was your approach towards data?
Yeah, it's actually a really good question, and I think to me, like people are going to operate processes, so you have to consider the people side, and ultimately, almost all business transformation now involves some kind of technology. So you're going to get to the technology, but it's very easy to jump into technology. And what I think we've the old garbage and DiscoverX syndrome, which has been around ever since computing became mainstream. I think when artificial intelligence and analytics and stuff came along, I think people were expecting that because it's on a BI dashboard, it must be true. And so you can, and executives love dashboards, they'd like to see the KPIs on the dashboard. The trouble is, if you haven't thought about data and you can't capture the data, it's just a different, maybe it's fancy garbage in, fancy garbage out, but it's still garbage in. And so to me, what we spent a lot of time doing with any implementation that we've done is, first of all, understanding the data. So what data have you got? What data is important? And you almost get to the reporting and the decisions that you need to make with that data. You think about that ahead of time, because the ERPs and stuff, they just push the data around. Ultimately, you're going to make decisions and make transactions based on it. So I think getting clarity around what data you need, and then cleaning, like really understanding and cleaning it, and having some proper data governance in place, so that someone's responsible for the data. Yeah? Someone's responsible for the data governing processes. So the process of governing data, but then someone is responsible for customer data. Someone who's close to the customer should be responsible for making sure that that's up to date. Again, on the supplier side, and products as well. Yeah, like it tends to be, if you're not careful, data just kind of happens. Like it gets collected. It gets collected as a new product is launched, or as a new customer is brought on board, or a new source of suppliers established. Data just kind of happens to fall into the systems. Whereas it really needs to be simplified, because there's a lot of stuff that you don't need. So understand what's important, what's key. So understand it, clean it so that you've got good clean data. And then, especially if you're transitioning from one system to another, convert it a few times. Yeah? Like make sure you've actually done the conversion and you test it on the converted data. So you test the transactions on the converted data. And I know when so going back a few years now, we first put SAP into the Canada, we did, I can't remember how many conversions we did. I think we did four conversions of data. Yeah? So one is the first cut, just get it across there. But then we did our business integration testing in a converted environment. So we froze data for I think 3 months. We basically said no more changes. We converted that data. We did all our integration testing and final user acceptance testing in data that had been converted. And that way, when we actually went live, it was very successful, for many reasons. But it was the data aspect was important. We actually put the big emphasis on cleansing the data and understanding. And then you have people opening them up as well. Otherwise, it just gets dusty and out of date pretty quickly. No, so
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I have a follow-up question to that?
sure.
So I'm interested in understanding if your projects that you're doing where you had all this data cleanup and stuff, folks actually left their full-time jobs and work in the projects. So they try to do it as is. I don't have the time to go through the cleaning.
And I think it's actually a really good question. So when we did like I said, the big SAP implementation part, the business sponsor, and this comes back to your question, how do you get the business guys, the senior leaders to really buy into this? So they were committed to it. They basically took some of their best people out of the business, backfilled the business roles so that their best people were working on the project. And that way, yeah, you do. I mean, they can still consult back to the business, so they can still help with operations, but their main focus needs to be on the project. And I think there's a couple of things you speed things up when you do that because they know what they're doing. They really understand what's going on. So they speed things up by doing it, but they also understand. They understand the data, so they can do it. It's like a lot of these things, like process or testing or data. Any of these things. If you don't focus on it, then you can do it. You can tick the box to say we tested. You can say we converted data. You can say we did processes. But the quality of those outputs depends on the personnel that you use and the attention that they're allowed to give to it. And I think one of the things we've learned today is that there are some really good tools out there which can help speed that up. So take some of the pressure off the operations by speeding up some of these processes. Yeah? So rather than starting with a blank spreadsheet and saying, okay, here's all the fields we need for products. We'll go and mine some of the data out of the existing systems and present it so that it's actually a cleansing process as opposed to a definition process. And I think the same for the processes. So I traditionally I've done it with whiteboards, post-it notes, flip charts, more recently Miro and some of the other tools and whatever. But I've traditionally done that using facilitated workshops. And what I'm hearing today is some of the sort of process mining is I think there's still a need for a workshop environment just because that's where you get buy-in from people. Yeah? So people are still part of this operation, but they don't need to be there for 4 weeks, 3 days a week, 4 weeks. Maybe it's you go through this, do an initial, sort of introductory, couple of hours just to explain to people what you're doing. Go away through the mining, and then you come back with a straw man of, okay, here's what we think the process looks like. People recognize this, and that way you take a lot of the pressure off some of those people that are key to the business who historically maybe they didn't have time to do it. So actually take away some of the heavy lifting so they can focus their time on high value stuff, which is really the confirmation and validation of data as opposed to necessarily the finding it. Does that make sense?
Karthik, follow up on the same. Do you remember any data disaster that you encountered when you started doing your Agile workshop, your master data modeling for, let's say, warehousing management system? And how did you handle it? Did you go and identify the root cause of why the data looks the way it is, and then not only address it during the blueprint, but also put together some policies so that it doesn't happen again? Data related to customers that as simple as that product data coming from different systems to your WMS or MES system mismatch, anything?
Yeah. So I pretty much data cleansing does happen in the course of the process, but this was more than just a data migration strategy, right? sometimes because of the nature of how the legacy systems are, okay, you might not be able to even put the best systems forward. So what happens is, for example, I could recall a lot of examples where your all orders you receive from the customer, everything had one singular document type example, right? So when you have to define a process way forward in your warehousing execution process, there is no separation between them. Everything needs to align. So there are two parts. So one is about how the master data itself needs to be there in order to ensure the further processes are defined. Second is it leads to some amount of what we say, the re-engineering of the process currently, which is also there. So there are two problems which results to it. Either you constrain the design of the future solution because the way they don't want to change in the past, and this causes suboptimal solution also sometimes. So even if you want to go with the best of solution, best of product or solution, like an EWM or a transportation, just because they don't want to change the source system, the target system is not able to be adapting in that manner. That's one they have already looked at. But this is where we spend then our blueprinting workshop, the design workshop goes for an extra level. So what happens is it goes right from the bottom layer to the leadership, trying to take a call. Okay, do we change the way we have working or the way we are capturing information? Do I change my order systems? So it's not easy to change an order system, right? So it goes up to your customer portal, then it goes to your B2B systems, the recom portals where the orders are captured. So then you might have certain type of systems where your online things comes in. So it doesn't change anything. So that also is actually one of the causes where a lot of times where we have to restrict the design, constrain and try to find a lot of workarounds. Now, when we do that, again, what is available, are they able to function? Then the element of when we started doing the hosting also comes into the picture. Can these guys adapt to a new thing? I have a big change to happen in my office, right? So again, they'll have to go through a different training. So a lot of decision causes this particular data. So this falls into the bucket of integration itself. The data integration itself comes into a question that how well can I utilize this one? Second part is one other thing which I clearly remember is the end state where, of course, we have done all the mock inventory cutover, mock one, mock two, you do it. You really go into the situation where I have to do a cutover. Then when you start doing inventory of all your stocks, you get a lot of surprises. These are certain things which are not said or never existed during the initial phase. So what we knew, right? What was unsaid comes at the very, very later point of time. So this is also one of the principal causes. Like if I don't approve a stock, my cutover does not happen. My cutover does not happen. My system doesn't go there, right? It really causes a disruption. So what this essentially means that need to go and get into the system in the depth. So there has to be, when you go into a data migration strategy altogether, these parameters needs to be very clearly defined from the tools. So these tools which we talk about today, that is what we need to enable to ensure that we have a certain amount of checklist as much as possible, because the tools also come with its own set of lines, right? So we have to define those lines, ensuring that we capture, run those on the regular system. So now complexity increases now, whether it is you're talking about the same systems as SAP landscapes or non-SAP system coming into the picture. And within the SAP system, this problem is much lesser, which I've seen. The moment it becomes a non-SAP system, a lot of prerequisites within outside the SAP system, then the data integrity itself comes as a challenge. Now they have a character, say, I'm supporting 18 characters, you have 15 characters support. How do you do a conversion? Right? Downside, fit the smaller into a bigger thing, right? So these are smaller things. Second is your basic like time zones, your calendars, how you plan your operations. A lot of things are not being defined. For example, one of the customers we saw, they have a delivery date, they don't have a time, and they want to dispatch, and they're looking forward to plan a truck to go into the specific time, right? So I cannot plan a truck time because I don't know the delivery is scheduled for the entire day because my time is 0000, right? So how do I plan for the time of the day for the truck? So that channel just gets pushed from your ERP system to your execution system. Ideally, this needs to be in your planning system, right? So you get a big missing piece. Then you start working out, then you constrain the solution by certain aspects of it. So these are typical data challenges which normally comes in.
Yeah, I sort of build on it in the sense that, we tend to address the data challenges during the transformation project itself. And actually, if you know you're going to be going through transformation, good data governance, and good data maintenance, you can do that anytime. Like the thing is your day-to-day operations and the way that you've got a business operating in a particular group, kind of covers it up because people just know how to deal with the bad data that you've got at the moment. There's nothing to stop you starting to do that ahead of time. Like if you know you're going to do a transformation next year, there's nothing to stop you actually looking at your data, cleansing your data, understanding your data now, and preparation. And that was actually one of the things that we did. As soon as we started the project, we hadn't even developed the environments and stuff yet, but we knew we had a whole load of legacy supplier data from 20 years ago that had been migrated from the mainframe, the AS400 to the best of breed ERP system, and now we're going to put it into SAP. So we basically said, well, we're not going to do that. We're actually going to look at it now. We're just going to limit what it is that we're going to do. So you can start. It's just like process, yeah. Like you can start modeling your processes anytime you want. You don't have to wait for a transformation to do it. And, I argue you should, because then you have better knowledge of how your organization works, regardless of what you're going to do. Yeah, so it should be there. And data is the same thing. You can cleanse your data anytime you want. You don't have to wait for transformation. And in fact, it's relatively cheap to do as well. Yeah, it's some legwork, and there are tools and stuff that can help as well now. I mean, there's nothing to stop you doing it at any time. You don't have to do it as part of the transformation. And when you're trying to take risk away from a big transformation, that kind of stuff that you can do ahead of time is actually reducing the risk of the transformation itself.
So one more interesting thing, I was talking to one of our customers, and this probably you have heard many times. You're saying their organization also went through 3 SAP upgrades, starting with ECC, then S4, and now S4 2021 or something. So you're saying every time this upgrade or implementation was pushed on us, the promise was it will make your life better. He said, certain aspects it has made my life better, but in certain aspects it has increased my life. I was moving towards getting my works reduced, but SAP being a compliance system, it's now more difficult to operate itself.
Yeah.
Have you experienced these conversations from business in your implementations? If you have, how have you countered?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a specific case. But I think the promise is always efficiency. It's always the promise is to get better. And I think, I kind of come back to, I remember doing a presentation years ago. The promise is, you're going to put, I had a picture of a Volkswagen Beetle, the new Beetle. And it's kind of like, looks nice, it's a nice car. So it's a regular kind of car, and a good sleek car. And it's almost as though, imagine getting into lots of bits to make the car, which is kind of what you get when you start on an SAP implementation, because you can implement SAP a billion different ways. There's a lot of configuration, a lot of questions you have to answer to do it. So I kind of liken it to the fact that you buy the finished car, but then you get the pile of bits, and then you need your integrator and your data people and your process people and stuff to help you put it together. And usually it ends up not looking anything like the people. It'll get down the road, but it's not looking good. So I think what we've always done is said, okay, well, we always start from a process perspective, but sort of take that, the second level of the process. So which of the processes that you have to really be good at, and you focus there. And sometimes efficiency in a process that doesn't really bring you any extra value, live with some imperfections there. But actually, where if customer agility is key, you need to be able to respond to customers very, very quickly, and put the focus there and make that seamless. And being able to explain that to the guy who's running who has to file the taxes manually, because we're not going to invest in the automation. Like that's where you need the enterprise the enterprise view of it yet, because you have to understand what the value is. And to me, you know, if everybody's promised efficiency, then you can't deliver on everyone's efficiency. And so it's kind of like, you know, but then you have to resource the other areas. If you're doing a manual process, you have to allow them to do it manually. You can't assume that they're going to get the efficiency, take away the resource, and then they're stuck with well, this is harder than it used to be. Yeah? So it's so I think it's the application of technology and customization in particular to the areas that bring the most value. And understanding that is, you know, to me, regardless of what technology you're going to use, which ERP you're going to use, whether you're doing automated testing, process mining, whatever it is, just understanding your business and what's critical for your business. I think to me, that's fundamentally where you need to start. Like, you've got to understand where you're going to focus, and then, you know, to your point, put the focus there. But then understand that the guy that's left with the sort of, you know, the bag of worms that's sort of, you know, yeah, we're not going to focus there. But at least resource them to the point where they can do it to an okay level. Yeah? Like, and don't measure them at the world class level when you've only asked, you know, what you need to be able to do it, you know, sort of efficiently. So, yeah.
So now this will probably be the last question, but I want you to elaborate both of you on this. Now, there are some specific set of technical skills or hard skills we all need to implement the transformation program, especially on SAP or EWM. But there are certain soft skills as well, which you need as a part of your IT organization, you need as a part of system integration organization. If I give you 3 skills, how will you rank them 1, 2, 3 on the order of importance to one? Number 1 is analytical skills, ability to analyze. Second is problem solving, which is little different than analysis. And third is innovative mindset. So if you want to rate these 3 skills with respect to absolutely needed for a successful transformation program implementation for an IT organization and for the SR organization, how would you rate?
So I think I would definitely rank all these 3 in the manner, but there is a prerequisite for this, right? Which is something where you need to know the domain of the industry very well.
That is given.
So with that understanding, because when you have that, you need to really have. I would put an analytical skill on the top, because when you see a warehouse, you already run a lot of things, iterations in your mind. What is that? I don't want to see something which is happening very good, right? I need to something happening which is I'm not able to see. Other normal people are able to see that. Example, one of the customers which I saw, right? Example, he actually set that racking system, and it was a very simple thing. Okay, he had a 5-tier rack, and he had barcodes tagged on each of his particular tier. And this guy was pointing the gun and shoot something there and fixing it. So all it needed to take is to all put all the barcodes on that model there. It means simple. For us, it might look simple. So these are certain things which normal people don't understand. Exactly. There are similar instances where you need to tend to look at things. Example, if I have to speed certain things in my warehouse, and I physically see that, can I speed this warehouse in what manner? So you should have a blend of industry experiences which you've brought in, the implementation experience across various warehouses. You pick and choose the best one. So there you tell and analyze the problems first, rather than saying that, okay, this is the best suited for you. Now comes the second category is the problem, right? So there are constraints. I can suggest a best practice. It will not work for the company. It will work for the other company, right? So that best practice, you have to solve the problem. How can I model that to you? That's where the problem solving comes into the second part. So I might get all the information I need. I might analyze everything. Everything is in place. But out of this, maybe 50-60% cannot work for you. How do I make all this at 90% at least? So that problem solving still needs to be on the second part. The third, it's already landed the market.
It's kind of interesting because if you sort of said that, I mean, to me, analytical skills kind of a given. Like it's a bit like subject matter knowledge. Like if I've got a team, I don't have anyone on my team who can't do that. They can't analyze problems, business analysts. So it's sort of almost like a fundamental thing. And I think it's sort of, to me, problem solving is, you have to be able to, because every time you go in, you might go in, very similar looking warehouse, putting in the same software, but the problems are different based on whatever it is. So being able to understand what's in front of you and finding the right solutions is probably the most widely needed skill. But innovation is needed occasionally. Yeah? So now it's saying you can't not have that in routine. And it can be sometimes the most valuable piece, but you don't need everybody to be innovative. Like I think what you need is you need a blend of that. So that when you get those real tough problems where your problem solvers can't solve it, you need to get outside and do a bit of brainstorming and design thinking. What are we actually trying to solve here? So to me, it's kind of almost like analytics. Everybody needs that. You need some problem solvers, especially as your team users and stuff like that. So they sort of recognize when things are there. And then you need some innovation that you can call upon, where you kind of get stuck in exactly, you can't really see it. So I don't know if I rank them 1, 2, 3. I think it's sort of applying it to the right time. And if you had all innovators, you'd never get anything done. And if you had all problem solvers, you probably wouldn't get anything done. So you need the analysts as well. So it's kind of,
the reason I asked this, and I'm glad Karthik brought this example because I was with him in that warehouse visit. There were 6 of us. Only 2 from Celia, a couple of them from a different organization, and a few of them from the customer. He's the only one who saw that that barcode right at the top layer of the level, and then the barcodes were right where the levels were, and every time the operator would point and then it scan. And then he not only stopped and asked that question and said, hey, you could easily put them bottom and then in order for the bottom, mid, and top. Then he went and asked the question. Obviously, it was more time you have to aim and shoot, and on a warehouse floor, operating efficiency is the most, and labor intensive. He also went and asked the question saying, have you had instances where because it was difficult to aim, he has accidentally scanned another barcode? They said, yeah, it happens all the time. So, looking at the same instance, looking at the same thing, analytical mind draws multiple conclusions and then eventually brings it together to solve it. The reason I asked this question is I wanted to bring it back to conclude the session, and so we can go have some breaks. To conclude the session, I wanted to go back to the opening keynote that I gave, where I gave an example of a heart surgeon and I think it's more than change the name. So the point I was making is, it is the domain, the training matters, but as well as these 3 skills may be much more by training in a heart surgeon than a car mechanic. That stands me apart. That's what is valuable. So by looking at the different diagnostics available, he can make a determination using his analytical skills and then decide the course of treatment and find out the solution to a problem. So it is, in order to be called specialist of a particular field, you have to have all these skills along with the domain and SAP as a technology or manufacturing. That's what the point that I wanted to drive. Today was one of the first in the series of events that we wanted to do. We again cast a wider net on supply chain, talk about different elements, and then subsequently, as I was saying, there will be a session we want to plan it dive where we take warehouse management as a specialized domain and dive deep, or transportation, or S4, and then talk about, let's say, S4 for mid-month. But the idea today was to bring some of the relevant technology partners along with SAP and us and sort of talk about what it really takes to transform a supply chain and convert it into business. It was supposed to be intense, it was supposed to be for fact. Beer game I was hoping would lighten things up, it made it more intense. But or name it a great game so I can settle my expectations better. But that's about it, guys. Thanks a lot for joining. We had much more registrations, but along with a couple of speakers, few dropped due to COVID. Maybe there is still an apprehension in joining in-person events. I don't know. we will try to get the next event little more organized, with much more audience, so you get broader perspective. But I thought it was time well spent, and I thank you all for joining. Thanks, Phil, Karthik, Sunita, wonderful presentation, and obviously Francis, thanks for driving up from this. Andy, you all, but I love the conversation. As I said, we at Stellium have casted a very narrow box for us of expertise. We want to play in there, and we want to lead the game. That's about it. Any concluding questions, concluding remarks from anyone? No? Are we good? Are we break for some break?
I would pause for passive. I left 2 years. I'm independent. Yeah. I'm actually work with project management, setting the scene for all trying to get it to understand. Yeah, well, yeah, I know people that have, there's a lot of people that don't.
I can also get started. I have no all staff taking on here. I will start getting.
Hey, Naina, you need to, sorry, I'm calling you right now. You need to stop the recording.
Yeah.
Is it done? There's a stop recording. Or give me host options. I can stop recording.
Or because of simplify. Yeah. Yeah. Planning stuff. Yeah. He was saying it's planning. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Well, I know, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Hey, Naina, it's still recording.
Even whatever it is, like that's sort of technology. Now it's also because they didn't get what they're doing. Doesn't matter how much technology.
Yeah.
So the discussions that we see, depending on enough time to even evaluate something, it's better to take a step back and see. Let's go to basics now.
Yeah. I attended a conference in.
Photo.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay.